Good morning on our FYI program. The CRDC Director Erin with us on our public service program this morning and talking about everything but what we're going to talk about on the show, weather and everything else. But Erin, welcome back to the show. Try to get you on a semi-regular basis here. CRDC, I know we talked to you earlier. Maybe start things off. You just got back from an actual event.
Yes.
Where you had people.
Yes, they had real
been,
people.
What, a year and a half or so?
Easily, yes. It's easily been that. So I just came back from Orlando, Florida just recently. And it was my first and potentially only in-person business conference for the year. But it was a fantastic event. And it was put on by the Site Selectors Guild. And site selectors, as you and I have discussed before, site selectors are those people who literally try to find a location for a new business, typically in our case, a larger manufacturing company. And so to go to a single place for 2.5 days and meet one-on-one, with these site selectors and talk to them about Clinton and our industrial park and what's going on here, that's huge. It was a huge opportunity. And I have to say, initially they thought it was going to be smaller scale. And as it turns out, they opened things up because it was down in Florida. And there were about 350 participants. People were shaking hands and giving out business cards. It was absolutely normal, for better or for worse. I'm vaccinated. Most people there, they, claim to be vaccinated. Nobody wore a mask. Knock on wood, haven't been sick, since then type thing. So just in general, it was fantastic to get out, do a business attraction event and talk up what's going on here in the greater Clinton region. And it was just a really good, productive event.
Erin, when you do those things, can you walk away knowing anything, knowing any impact you have from those things? And somebody say, I'll call you. When you go to those things, what do you walk away with? Right.
A lot of it truly is networking, and the true benefit is probably going to take place over some period of time. It isn't typically immediate, but the relationships, and you and I have talked about this many times, building those relationships, not just with the site selectors, but also with your colleagues, your peers are there, service companies that would do things that would be useful to us, to some extent. So really it was building the relationship, networking with them, again, informing them of what's going on in Clinton and talking about the Lincoln Way Industrial Rail and Air Park. Really, a lot of people were familiar with the Site Selection Magazine article that came out back in March of this year. And Clinton, Iowa was #1 in the rankings for per capita industrial projects along the whole entire Mississippi River Valley corridor. That was huge. This is the type of audience who are familiar with that. And so even the site selectors, there were a couple of them who congratulated us on that. And they're paying attention to Clinton. So basically, we put Clinton on the map for a number of people that maybe had never heard of us before. And that in and of itself is worth the time and effort.
You talk about site selectors, and when they come, say you meet with X person, are they from that side of the business? Are they representing? Are they typically one company, multiple companies? So when you meet with one person, is it possible that you basically, in a sense, have 2 or 3 or 4 contacts behind them, or they work for just one company?
Yeah, so a site selector as an individual would work for a company, right? And then I would almost think of it as a service company. So their service is to find a site for another company. So basically, a manufacturing company, whether it's a U.S. company or a foreign-owned company, would hire the site selection firm to do a site selection for them throughout the United States. So yes, I mean, meeting that one site selector, they could have reach out to dozens of potential companies that could be interested in a place like Clinton. We have a rail-served industrial park. We have the Lions Business and Tech Park. So yes, meeting that one site selector, they could have, anywhere from probably 10 to 20 or more projects per year. And so therefore, for them to know who we are and where we are really is important. So with that one person and that one contact, you could potentially have reach out to multiple other companies and potential projects.
So just keep your information on file, and maybe they'll see something. And
yes,
a company who looks for something, and I got, because every company's looking for something different.
Yes,
so
that's absolutely true. But we do have to be a little more aggressive than that. They don't want to be hounded, right? None of us ever want to be hounded. So you can't be too aggressive, but You have to maintain that relationship. So now that I've met them, a lot of them for the first time down in Orlando, the idea is that we would now send them our newsletter, which the CRDC puts out on a monthly basis. If we have press releases for new projects, we would then send it to them directly. Hey, we got these new projects. That type of information is really helpful to get out to them. It helps them pay attention. Oh, Clinton, you have to keep it on their mind because they're dealing with many other cities across the U.S.
And maybe they see one project located here that
Yes.
that kind of, oh, that's a related company or something that
Absolutely.
we see that must they know that company, or maybe they know that site selector who worked with that.
Right.
Is that something that happens sometimes?
Absolutely. No, good news really matters. You never know, but good news really matters because, for example, like the Spiber project would be one good example. So we announced the Spiber project last November, Japanese biotech company coming to Clinton, Iowa for its first ever U.S. presence. That's a huge deal. People pay attention to that. So we had a press release that came out with that, and we would have sent that to site selectors. So if there are other site selectors out there who work with biotech companies, they're like, oh, a Japanese biotech company went to Clinton. What's going on in Clinton? Why did they choose Clinton? And suddenly it just, it starts that process.
When's that? You got any announcements yet you can make today? Got anything you're kind of holding on to?
I have a couple of things. Yeah, no, I have a couple of things. So obviously it's been a little while since you and I last spoke, and we've had a couple of projects announced in May. So in May we had two projects, both local expansions. So ADM announced its expansion because of the Spiber project. And you and I had talked about this a while back last fall. So when Spiber was announced, there were only 5 jobs associated directly with Spiber. However, we pretty much figured there would be additional jobs that would come out as a result of that. Well, as it is, there are, but they're coming through ADM. So again, ADM and Spiber are partnering. Spiber is using ADM's existing facility, the biorefinery in South Clinton. And now ADM is creating upwards of 48 new high-paying jobs directly related to the Spiber project. So that was a big deal. That was just announced in May. And ADM received $1 million from IEDA to purchase over $27 million worth of machinery and equipment to retrofit the biorefinery here in Clinton. The second project that was announced back in May was Big River Packaging, fantastic local company. Their business has been booming even before the pandemic, but certainly during the pandemic, and they got to the point where they realized they needed to expand. So they're right along, Lincoln Way out here, US 30. And so they received a state and local incentive as well to do an expansion of their existing building. So, and they're going to be adding some additional jobs with that. So those were the two projects most recently that we announced just within the last month. It was May 21st, so just about a month ago.
Are you hoping good news builds more good news?
Absolutely. That's how it's been going, right? Like money attracts money, good news attracts good news. When you put all the pieces together, there are some amazing things going on in Clinton right now. So you figure as these expansion projects and new attraction projects take place and more people are, creating jobs, bringing workers to the region, they need some place to live, right? So those things go hand in hand. So the housing projects that are underway, and kudos to the city of Clinton, which is really mostly overseeing the housing projects that are taking place throughout the city of Clinton. And there are at least 5 or more of them at the moment. So Wilson Lofts, you saw that, the Wilson building in downtown Clinton, just had hits like ribbon cutting ceremony, fantastic project. So not only are they going to have units, housing units immediately in downtown, but we're really excited about the fact that they're going to put in business incubator space on their first floor, which is really exciting because as you know, here in Clinton, we don't have any business incubator space currently. They also plan to put in like an industrial kitchen that people could use. So for the sake of entrepreneurs, so this isn't just a housing project. This is now an economic development project. It's an entrepreneurship project. So really excited about that. But again, there are many other housing developments going on in a wide range of price points, if you will. So we realize that some people need what we refer to now as workforce housing. Then you have middle income, and then you have people who say they're a plant manager or a CFO at one of the companies, or they work at Mercy One, they're a doctor or something. They have different requirements for the housing that they want, and we need to build those types of housing, our houses too. So bigger single family home houses that might be somewhere in the 250,000 or above range, that there is demand for all of those types of housing throughout Clinton, and that's a good thing. We want more of that.
These things, I guess, they aren't directly related to the CRDC, but you like to see, I guess we'll call them adjacent developments that could have some positive impacts on what you're doing, although are those also things you keep an eye on, or do you just focus on your little corner?
No, so we again focus on 4 major things, right? So business attraction, so Spiber would fall into that category. Business retention and expansion, so the Nestle project, ADM's project, Big River Packaging, those are all expansion projects. Workforce development, and then also workforce attraction. So those are the 4 key areas that we would focus on. Housing is not included. So, but nonetheless, as I mentioned, for all of the companies that are here already or companies that we're trying to attract in, housing is critically important, as is workforce. They're all tied together. As a 3-person operation, the CRDC simply doesn't have the staffing or the bandwidth, to cover things like housing. That's just not in our expertise right now. So again, the City of Clinton is covering that. We do work closely with the City of Clinton. We're tracking the housing projects, and the CRDC shares the housing information out to all of the major employers in our region so that they are aware of the existing housing and new projects, so that as they're talking to their own employees who may not live in Clinton County, we want them to be aware that these new housing developments are going on, so that maybe more people will literally move into and live in Clinton County. So we are trying to close the loop on those things.
Erin, you mentioned those 4 areas. Is any one of those, they shift in priorities, which is the one you focus on, or is it always, is there one of them that you always is the top of your list?
No, it's a very good question, actually, a very good question. And the pandemic shifted things for us. So for example, business attraction took a lesser drive, simply because we couldn't travel as much. Nobody was holding these conferences that we would go to last year, never went to a single one. So business attraction fell further down the list, and workforce development, workforce attraction moved up the list because it's local. We don't need to travel to do that for the most part. And some really exciting news there. So the Clinton Regional Development Corporation was just awarded a $33,000 grant from CCDA, the Clinton County Development Association. And it is for a Clinton County-wide workforce development and attraction program that we're going to launch July 1st. So again, the focus, to your point then, has shifted a little bit more to workforce development and attraction. Everybody needs workers. I'm sure you talk to companies all the time. Everybody's desperate to hire. So, but also skilled training, that it's not just that they need people, some people need skilled people. And so that's the workforce development piece.
Doing that, can you talk as a kick off, but what are you doing to attract that workforce? What are some parts that, when you talk $33,000, sounds like a lot of money, but probably isn't.
Yeah.
What are you doing with that can you outline some of the ways that it's going to help?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, there's no one easy solution. And by far, our community, or even the state of Iowa, is not the only one experiencing this sort of, lack of workers. We just don't have enough people to fill the jobs that we currently have. So we're not alone in that. There's no magic bullet. However, on the plus side, Clinton, Iowa is literally right across the Mississippi River from Illinois. And that's big for us because Illinois has a much larger population. And so our labor shed, which is the term they use, if you put Clinton as a bullseye and draw an hour's drive radius around there, we go a full hour into Illinois. So Rock Creek or Rock Falls, and Morrison and Sauk Valley and all those places, we can draw and do draw workers from those areas. So that's already a big plus for us. You wouldn't do that if you're in Des Moines, so that's a bit, or Iowa City or a lot of other places. However, it's still not that simple to reach new people. Obviously, everybody knows the federal unemployment issue was, I think slowed things down for folks. That's going away, certainly in the state of Iowa, and eventually for everybody will go away. So that's part of it. The other part of it is being proactive, trying to get in front of people, a wide range of audiences, to say, we have jobs in Clinton. Here are the jobs. Here's the skill set. The cost of living is much lower than living in a lot of places in Illinois, certainly around the Chicago area. So it's really going to take a marketing campaign, and that's what we're going to use the money for, at least a portion of it, is to market our area and the jobs that are available to people that we think, would be willing to move here and do that.
When you do this, this may be completely unrelated, but
yeah.
You've seen these stories with everybody now that work at home. You can work anywhere in the country and still work for somebody in Chicago. Your base could be, your company you work for could be in Chicago. You could live in Clinton, Iowa and work. Does the CRDC get involved in any of that? If you're looking for people to move here, do you maybe think that's just kind of a fringe benefit, or do you focus on some of that issue that I know there are different towns in different states have talked about recruiting people because of that work at home thing now. Do you worry about that, or is that just kind of out there as a fringe benefit?
The key thing that we need here in the greater Clinton region is people to work in local companies. So if somebody is a remote worker, it means they're working for somebody else. So if they physically come here and they rent a house or they buy a house, that's great. I mean, there's definitely some benefit to that, certainly on the property tax side or something. But ultimately, if they're working for somebody else, they're not going to fill a job here. So there's a little bit less benefit to doing that. I know there are other states that see that as a huge boon for them. They're really more focused on the real estate aspect, either the renting or selling properties. But for us, we're really looking for people who will actually work here and fill a local job.
The only benefit maybe says if somebody's coming here for a job, maybe their partner, significant other,
who
works at home, so it's easier for them to move as from that standpoint. So maybe there's a benefit there somewhere that somebody could work from home and somebody could fill a job locally.
Right.
And they're able to move easier than they were 10 years ago or 5 years ago.
No, that's exactly true. But, so we use, there are now 3 talent attraction programs, but you're familiar with 2 of them. So Home Base Iowa, which is a statewide program, does help military veterans or those who are just transitioning out find a job in Iowa. Yes, huge benefit. In addition to that, under the Iowa Finance Authority, they have the Military Home Ownership Assistance Program, which provides a $5,000 grant to veterans moving into Iowa and buying their first home here, which is huge. As you know, in Clinton County for Home Base Iowa, Clinton County adds an additional $1,500 to that. So if you're a military veteran moving into Clinton County for the first time, you could receive upwards of $6,500 towards purchasing your first home. That's huge. We market the heck out of that. And that's been very successful. You and I have talked about that. 2019, I think we had over 30 veterans move into Clinton County. And again, they'll typically have a spouse or children, maybe adult children, maybe other members of a family that come with them. So that's not just 30 people moving in. It could be 60 or 90 or however many. Obviously, that slowed down a little bit during the pandemic. People weren't moving as much, although we still, I think it was 14 or 15 veterans did come in last year in 2020, obviously still actively marketing that. The other talent attraction tool that we market heavily is the Clinton County Clinton County Community Student Loan Assistance Program. That one's a real mouthful, but it is a student loan payback program. And it's for new residents, for better or for worse. So, we see that as a huge boon. Obviously, we'd like to make it available to existing residents. Unfortunately, we don't necessarily have the funding currently to do that. So it is meant for new residents coming into Clinton County. And if they have official student loan debt, then they can apply through Clinton County and they could get $1 a day from the county. And then if they live in the cities of Comanche, DeWitt, or Clinton, they could get another $1 a day. And then if they work in the school districts, they could potentially get up to $3 a day to pay back their student loans. They can do that for upwards of 5 years. So it's pretty significant. And it's unique for us as a county and as the municipalities to actually offer a student loan program. So we do obviously market that, and that has worked out well. Because if you want to live, say, in Clinton County versus Scott County doesn't offer that. So you might as well come to Clinton County. So we are definitely focusing on those things. And the last one would be the Manufacturing Awareness Program, which we partnered with Clinton Community College, and that's been offered since last year. And that's free to students. And basically, it's an introduction to manufacturing. So if they've never worked in manufacturing before, but they know how many jobs are currently available in manufacturing, how do I transition? How do I get into that? You don't have to go through the manufacturing awareness program, but it is free to students because of corporate sponsorships. And it really is a good introduction to manufacturing, what to expect, safety issues, things like that. And then there are definitely companies waiting for you on the other end once you finish that program to come out on the other end. It is all self-paced and online, so there's no risk involved for the student. And then there are companies here waiting for you to come out, and they'll hire you on the other end.
Talking with Erin Cole from the Clinton Regional Development Corporation. And Erin, you mentioned Spiber, Big River Packaging, of course, is a local company.
Mm-hmm.
Some of your work, you try to at least throw out the idea of locating a headquarters here in Clinton when you talk to some of these companies.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? They got a plant here or an operation here. Spiber comes to mind because they're one of the new ones. But
right.
Do you talk to them? Hey, we'd like to have your corporate headquarters here as well.
Yeah, so corporate headquarters is not something that we specifically target. I would say we generally target more manufacturers. However, to your point, it could be that a new manufacturer coming in would have its corporate headquarters with it. And so, for example, we're working with Project MG. We always have these code names. So Project MG, we've been working with since 2019. It is still moving forward. They're looking at the rail park. And our understanding is this would be a brand new company. And so initially they had given us a job count that was maybe in the 30s up to 40 people. That has since expanded because they plan to have their corporate headquarters and some of their senior corporate staff would actually be here in Clinton. So that's an exciting opportunity. Different reasons for that. Obviously, again, they tend to make more money. They'll have maybe a 6-figure salary, so the type of house they want and all those types of things, really matter. So I would say we don't typically target corporate headquarters in and of itself, and that's really because we don't have the office space. If you have a corporate headquarters like Chicago would have tons of them or something, you need that corporate office space to go along with it, or a place to put it. Now, we have the Lions Business and Tech Park. That's absolutely possible. Although even the tech park, we try to attract companies that would either be like light industrial, certainly commercial, but not necessarily a corporate headquarters.
And when it comes to these projects, Erin, does it matter who gets credit for some of these things? I know a number of different things. I know there's, I don't know where the CRDC was involved. There's a new operation getting ready to open downtown. I think it's First Street.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned,
right.
Spider says, from your world, does it matter who gets credit?
No, it doesn't matter. And obviously we have to work together. Again, if the CRDC is a 3-person operation, there's no way that we could do all these things, ourselves. We have commercial brokers in town. You mentioned like Balkline LLC is actually the company on 1st and 7th that's coming in. Dennis Lauber brought that project in. Dennis has brought a lot of like commercial manufacturing type, like sewer equipment out at the rail park. Dennis Lauber, we worked with him. So you have commercial brokers are critically important. You have the site selectors that they don't live here, but we rely on them to send us leads. Obviously, the Iowa Economic Development Authority, the state economic development agency, sends us leads on a regular basis. We work closely with Quad Cities Chamber. Sometimes they'll get a lead on a company that we don't get, and they'll share it with us, and we'll partner together. We did that just recently for a lead. It's obviously the city of Clinton and others, they get more involved when a lead is already here and they have to provide the incentive. We can't do that. The CRDC couldn't complete a whole project by itself because we don't provide incentives to anybody. So, for example, we can bring in the lead, we can do a site visit and the tour and get everything lined up, which is our job. Then when somebody decides they're going to be here and they want state or local incentives, then we have to rely on IEDA or the city of Clinton or the city of Comanche or whoever it's going to be. So it by its very nature, it's a team effort.
Erin Cole with us today, and as we wrap things up, we like to always have the question, what did you want to talk about today? We haven't.
Yeah. No, I just want to say thank you to the Clinton County Development Association, the CCDA. Really excited about the $33,507 grant that we were awarded just in June for this new workforce development and attraction program. We're working with Angela Reingans at the DeWitt Chamber and Development Company, including also the Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce. So it's going to be a collaborative event. And really looking forward to helping our employers, bring in more employees, good, solid people to work here.
Thanks to Erin Cole from the CRDC for coming in today on our FYI show.
Thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate it.
You're listening to AM 1340 KRO